Hello and welcome back to Aetheral Space 13.8 Fireworks Part 4. We are back.
Hi guys. Real quick, can you remind me how those ships worked? Like, what were the Guardian entities? They were like recorded Aether users or something.
They were
right?
recorded Gene Tyrant like creations. They're basically termed as like living Aether abilities.
That's kind of fun. How many of these ships are there?
No one knows for sure. They're just sort of like leftovers that drifted.
I do love that though, because we could get more other folklore ships. It's fun. It also creates new room in the RP for us to take folklore from other countries now and stuff, and be like, I plucked my Aether ability. You see. So, are there any restrictions to using one?
Not really. It's more they're like.
Because I've noticed everyone that has one doesn't really have any other Aether abilities outside of it.
They can. Mostly,
they can. Though.
The Hex K people didn't because they thought all Aether abilities were Guardian entities, basically. But you can have a Guardian entity in something else.
I see. Alright, let's do this. For Xander Rain, first branch of the Tree of Might, it was a quiet night. This is the little kid, right?
He's like 14, yeah.
Do you know what I imagine him as, by the way?
Yeah?
Do you know that, like, in Danganronpa, the student, like, discipline guy?
Yeah.
That's what I imagine when I think of Xander Rain for some reason. There was an old temple, the Chorus Box, that the tree had secured for their time on Azum-Ha. As the name suggested, it was squat and square, buried deep in the bowels of the city. These days, many eyes would pass over it. Nobody knew their history, and even if they did, they didn't respect it. The Tree of Might alone understood the duty they had to the past. The First Supreme, the Absolute, had entrusted the supremacy to its people. The traditions and ceremonies of the supremacy were all a part of that trust. The common masses disposed of whatever they did not appreciate, justifying their weakness while disgracing all that had given them their freedom. It had always disgusted Xander's father. It had always disgusted Xander. Wind blew, and Xander's brown hair billowed as he looked up at the city proper. Right now, the other Dawn contestants were fighting for their lives, fighting for their honor. They had called themselves strong, boasted that they would be the ones to seize the throne, but how true was that when they were caught by surprise? Would they all prove worthy? Xander didn't know. All he could do was wait and watch. After all, for him, this was to be a quiet evening. Wait, did he organize this?
Oh.
Or did he just finish his fight so fast that it's not a problem?
Who can say?
Ooh, this is interesting. It looks like we have a new perspective. Is there like a special voice I should use?
It's a little bit whimsical, maybe?
Should there be a space between that word that's highlighted in red?
No.
Okay. You said whimsical?
Yeah.
Ah, the insincerity!
Maybe a tad less whimsical, but that kind of vibe.
A tooth rest on a mass of dying bones. I climb onto the wreckage of the systematic threshold. Is this a man in my teeth? No! Just a collection of heart, liver, lungs, nervous system, skin, bone, muscle. There is so much more to say, so much more to take, but it squeals, and amidst it all there is only the squeaking of thousands of mice, authorized and yet unsanctioned. I do not see. Where am I? This is scary. But I adore it all the same. Palatine, they say. Palatine! Is that my name or my dying scream? Am I dead? What is it to be dead? Am I to be dead, or is this just the verge of a new horizon of the field covered in red grass and moving all too quickly? The rot of it disgusts me. I hate it! Who is this? Who is this man I hold in my extensions? Assassin. Yes, you wanted to kill me, didn't you? A dagger and a beast made one and the same. Warped and connected and eaten, but not by me. Oh, but I am so very hungry. An assassin, but I am not dead. A failed assassin, then? A premise rendered invalid. Your thesis has been rejected by the University of your criminal ancestry. A graveyard with nobody living in it but you. Your mouth is filled with worms. I loved you for that. Where am I? Is this scary? I own a corpse, alive only through lack of perspective. Do I smile? It is difficult without a mouth. Even with a mouth, I do not remember how. What do I remember? Yes, I smile. I remember how to eat. Atoy Musashi was fast, but the Sasquatch was no slouch itself. As he rushed in, it thrust its arm forward, and the metallic limb stretched out to meet its attacker. Musashi raised his radiance up in a defensive cross, but the force of the punch was still enough to force him backwards, sparks flying from his metal boots as they scraped against the floor. White Aether surged wildly from Musazi's blades of light as they made contact with the massive fist. Two Aether constructs pushing against each other. Despite everything... Wait, are Radiance Aether constructs?
Yeah.
I understood it as just like super fire thrusters.
Well, yeah, the thrusters are created by Aether, though.
Interesting. So you could have like fire as an Aether armament?
Yeah.
And like, oh, you could light it like an Olympic torch. Carry it on. Despite everything, he couldn't help but feel just a little impressed. It was a rare thing that a toy Musazi couldn't cut. He reached the end of the tunnel, the arm still stretching out as it tried to force him against it. Instead, Musazi leapt in the air, kicking his feet against the wall and transitioning into a flip onto the limb itself. He sprinted along the surface of the arm, swords out as he ran towards the enemy proper. I'm just imagining, like, Flip running up in the speed lines as he's holding the swords out. It's like, swing! I love it. What was this guy's voice again?
Think of it like this. She's very dignified.
Oh, it was a butler, that's right. Very impressive, the Sasquatch commented, rubbing the space under its eye with its free hand, like a man stroking his beard. You turned my attack into a method of transport. I'd clap, of course, but that's rather difficult at the moment. As it finished speaking, the Sasquatch struck with its second stretching arm. So wait, this one's not a creature created by Gene Tyrants, it's an automatic.
I know, it's just like mechanical parts.
And Musazi barely dodged it by moving his run to the side. Rubble poured down from the ceiling as the Sasquatch's punch punctured the metal above, first fist becoming lodged in the architecture. There wouldn't be a better chance than this. This thing didn't have a distinct head, per se, so decapitation wasn't an option, but that red eye was promising. He'd make that his target. Musazi reached the end of his journey along the arm, thrust his radiance forward, and hot! A sudden wave of heat and air pressure suddenly blasted against him, sending him flying back. He gasped for air as he landed in a dignified heap. Oh, this one's dignified.
Yeah, Musazi does not land in an undignified heap.
What's a dignified heap look like?
It's like on one knee.
It's like Loki a Calvin Klein pose. A dignified heap some distance down the hallway, just about managing to remain on one knee. Just from that second or two of exposure, steam was rising from his skin. It was like he'd suddenly been teleported into an oven. The Sasquatch clicked a tongue that did not exist. Pity. I was rather hoping you'd get caught on my arm there. Musazi took a second to catch his breath. What had that heat attack been? Some sort of automatic retaliation? If so, was there a way to get around it? He needed time to think and plan. You said your user sent you after me, Musazi called down the tunnel. I take it you're some kind of conscious ability then? An intelligence created through Aether? I have no reason to answer that. The Sasquatch pulled its arms back from the wall and the ceiling. It was clearly preparing to attack once more. Damnation! Musazi needed to stall! Don't be so hasty, Musazi continued. Perhaps there is a reason for you to converse with me. White Aether trickled out from the back of his boots, slipping into the cracks in the floor unseen. Oh, he's about to do a fucking, Crossfire Hurricane variation. I can sense it. The Sasquatch aimed its arms at Musazi like twin rifles. And what would that be, my good man? Information, Musazi said. For each question of mine you answer, I'll answer one of yours. It blinked, considering the offer. This is a deception. You've been told about who I am? A briefing before you were sent after me, surely. Indeed. Then you'll know I'm not the sort of man to lie for petty advantages. Slowly the Sasquatch lowered its arms. Well, perhaps this could be amusing. You answer my question first, then. Musazi let out a breath of relief. This was very fortunate. It seemed the Sasquatch's information was very much out of date. No! You're a good man! You're a good man! Damn. Musazi, bring it back. Popcorn.
She's not here, grunted Nailman running over the communicator. Azrael blinked. He made a temporary command control center out of the supply closet. The cleaning automatic they'd once called at home cannibalized its communication functions. To one side, a holographic screen displayed the arena's surveillance network. To the other, a live feed of news updates was scrolling. In this dark, dingy corner of the heavens, Azrael could see everything. Well, almost everything. It seemed whoever had been guarding the Supreme had the good sense to disable the nearby security cameras. Intel says she was with Toy Musazi before he went into the arena, Azrael insisted. Maybe she just got away before you reached her? She didn't get away, Nail replied with a rare trace of annoyance. She wasn't here. The person with the cloak was some tree thing, not the girl.
Oh, he's totally looking for Greena.
Azrael frowned. That matched the description of Iona Yggdrasil, one of the 8 phases of the turning of the Earth. He was meant to be in orbit right now. Was there some kind of trickery involved? Well, can you track her? Azrael said. Any traces? You said the tree thing was there. Can you interrogate it? Destroyed it. Nail grunted. Azrael ran a hand over his face. Well, what did you do that for? There wasn't a reason not to. I'm headed back to the ship. Without another word or so much as a breath, Nail's communicator clicked off, leaving Ezreal alone in the darkness. He sighed a familiar sigh. King would kill his ass. Nail Manman was good at killing, sure, but he had no passion for it. Hell, he didn't seem to have passion for anything. It was like something had snuffed out the spark of humanity in him, leaving an animal operating according to its instincts.
Gets broken up with once, becomes the king of killers.
His combat skill was the equivalent of a corpse's twitch. Still, that didn't matter. His tutelage on the concept of guardian entities had allowed the Crimson Carnival to grow in stead very quickly. Most of the Prime members had entities now. Some of the grunts were still having issues creating them, though, and that was something Azrael honestly couldn't understand.
You create them? I thought you just, like,
well,
got
the
one.
process of creating one is you record a organism and, like, alter it until it's your ability.
Oh, I thought people were just granted them.
It's possible to do that as well, but that's not a system they have access to.
Mm.
It was the same as when he'd heard about people unable to create Aether abilities or needing a tutor to get them through the basics. After unlocking his Aether, using it in naturalism for breathing. Who needed a tutor for breathing? His gaze flicked over to the monitor as he saw the battle between his guardian entity, Sasquatch, and Atoy Mizazi seemed to have stalled. The two were just standing across from each other. Talking? Edro clicked his tongue. His guardian entity really could be a fool sometimes. Just what did it think it was doing?
So I'm confused. So what is the truth here? Is this guy just like... Is this meant to show he's extremely skilled with Aether? Or is this like telling us that like Dragon's whole process is like abnormal?
It's been mentioned this guy is like really skilled. He's like a prodigy, this guy. He's known Aether for 3 months.
Gotcha. Oh, he's the Higuruma of Aether. Wait, you're caught up on that, right?
I know what you mean, yeah.
Okay. Pray tell, the Sasquatch began politely. What is your ability? Muzazi did not blink. I can create thrusters on various objects. The pushing force and heat can be adjusted however I like. And the swords? He narrowed his eyes. That's a second question. It's my turn. Of course. What is your ability? The Sasquatch chuckled. Now, that would be a matter of some minor debate, I should think. When you say ability, you refer... that should be R,
oh, yeah.
D'Antoni. Are you referring to me myself, or the powers I have been bestowed with? Clarity is important in such matters, don't you think? This was the first time Atoy Muzazi had actually spoken to an Aether ability, but he was still quite surprised to think that it would love the sound of its own voice so much. You yourself, Muzazi grunted. What is it you can do? Well, you've experienced it yourself. I have various forms of control over heat. When an attack is about to hit me, I automatically retaliate with a burst of heat. The power and temperature vary depending on how much damage the attack would have done. That made sense. Muzazi had intended to kill the Sasquatch with that stab to the eye. That was why the burst of heat had been so immense. If he stuck to non-lethal attacks and dodging, he could probably get in close. Only, he didn't trust this thing. He didn't get the sense that it was lying, but that didn't mean it was telling the complete truth. There was nothing else for it then. He'd have to carefully investigate as they fought. It's my turn again, no? The Sasquatch chuckled. I'll ask again. What are the nature? It should be, what is the nature? What is the nature of those swords of light? Of revealing light, even? They're an application of my thruster ability. Rays of light and heat so immense I can use them to cut through objects. And you reduce the pushing force to 0 so you don't get flung around. The guardian entity mused. Quite ingenious. Muzazi adjusted his footing just slightly. Now, you tell me. What exactly are you hiding from me? That crimson triangle of an eye gleamed sinisterly in the dark. Oh, but Mr. Muzazi, it purred. Like I said, I have no reason to answer that. Without another word, the Sasquatch lunged, sending its twin arms down the length of the tunnel to strike Muzazi. You really like the twin descriptor, I've noticed.
I love that. I live for it.
Wait until it's Siamese twin.
There you go.
Just
do
that's how you
arms.
call single. I mean, you can use twin. I'm not judging it. It's just I noticed it's very present. One was aimed for his head,
Gemini.
the other his chest, and a haze of heat trailed after them. So that was it. The Sasquatch had automatic defenses, to be sure, but it could also produce heat at will. The betrayal wasn't a surprise, and Atoy Musashi didn't take it personally. After all, he'd been planning the exact same thing. Always doing the same move he did on Fuckstick, right? His like setup for the Giga Sword.
Maybe not.
Thrusters on. As the two of them had been talking, Musashi had been working, sneakily sending his Aether into the cracked tunnel around him. So how far can you send Aether out from yourself?
Pretty far. An Aether Ping goes pretty far, but you can't actually like do an ability with an Aether Ping.
Right. Is there like a max range to everyone's Aether? Is it based on individual, or is it just something you train?
It's something you train.
Okay. Thrusters were created and left inactive at a certain pressure points within the structure, waiting for his signal. All it took was a thought, and the tunnel collapsed around them, sending them both falling down. The Sasquatch's aim was thrown off as the ground buckled beneath it, and it flipped end over end as the two of them began their long descent to the arena below. Musashi did not miss his chance. Seizing the moment of confusion, he blasted himself forward, thrusters like rockets, and drew his ceremonial sword. Your retaliation is based on the damage of my attack, Musashi thought, circling behind his falling adversary. I see. What you told me is very important. Let's see, then, how you handle death from 1,000 scratches. Oh, is he doing inverse? Musashi's instincts bid him towards the killing cut. He ignored them. Instead, as he circled the Sasquatch, avoiding the manual heat bursts, he cut poorly. He cut incorrectly. He cut so amateurish that the greatest retaliation he received was sweat clinging to his forehead. But he did cut. He cut and cut and cut, slowly chipping away at the Sasquatch's form. Why you? The Sasquatch whirled around, aiming a punch at Musashi's skull, but Musashi just let himself fall beneath the arm, granting it a few more insect bites on the way down. Stop that! This is ruthless! The Sasquatch blasted heat downwards, but Musashi became a blur of white, ricocheting through the air until he was above the enemy once more. I said, for the love of God, man! Oh, he didn't say why! He didn't say why! Is that important?
No.
Or did you just forget? Tan?
Well, I think it's interchangeable.
Oh. A final swing and a final failure. The tiniest scratch compromised stability just a little bit more than it could safely be compromised, and the entity shattered into violent purple aether. So when a guardian entity dies, is it gone for good, or does it come back?
It actually, we go into it a little bit in the next chapter.
Like a flood, it surged out of the maintenance layer, crawling up into the arena proper, and Musashi followed. The work would lead him to its maker. Oh, he's fucking not Giorno, he's Josuke-ing this shit. I'm gonna follow the Aether back. So the Aether has to be recalled.
Yeah, the Guardian Entities, when you destroy them, the Aether goes back to the source.
Oh, that's cool. I like that. Because, like, I know when Ruth's armor gets destroyed, it reforms, but it's not really clearly defined how that works or how long it takes. So I wasn't sure if Guardian Entities were the same.
So basically, I'll go into it a little bit now. So with a lot of these constructs, if you destroy them, they're destroyed for good. But they're usually, like, programmed, basically, to, like, dissipate and safer right before they would have been destroyed.
Okay. So I have another question, then. Well, but isn't Noblesse set required to shatter, and we see it shatter?
Yeah.
But it comes back together.
Yeah, so that's his ability, though.
Could you create a restriction? Would you be allowed to? Because this adds a rule to the world rather than pulling yourself back. Where hurting an Aether construct hurts you, like JoJo stands, to give it, like, more power or whatever.
Absolutely could.
Ooh! I'm thinking. And you can make something akin to a Guardian Entity without having to do it the typical way, right?
Yeah,
did you come across a Gene Tyrant?
Ability.
I'm imagining, like, coming across a Gene Tyrant Abomination in the wild, and you defeat it, and before it dies, you're like, you're mine now, like a Pokemon. Yeah. Could you imagine recording Babyface from Downpour? Oh my god.
Guardian Entity, Cherubim.
Oh, I love it. Alright, let's see if anyone left us a question for this week. If not, I feel like you've done enough lore explaining. Where do I need to go? Here. Boop, 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 boop. Okay. Ainsworth says, if Palatine won and became Supreme, would that mean that the head of the Absurd Weapons Lab would also technically be Supreme?
Well, technically, Palatine will be Supreme, technically, but it is not in any state to actually make any decisions or do anything, really. Because we got a little bit of its perspective this chapter, and it wasn't exactly, like, lucid.
Yeah, it kind of seemed like it was caught in circles, which are how awakenings tend to be. But for an awakening, it seemed relatively cognizant.
Yeah, it's all flicking between, like, lucid...
At least compared to fucking Hacker Wu Ming, who just gets second life.
Yeah.
Because usually when we see an awakening, they just repeat their wish over and over. Like, must kill, must see Giovanni's end. They're like, must become Ultra President, or whatever the fuck. I forgot what the Citizens was, to be honest. What was the Citizens' like awakening wish?
Well, by the end, he was just sort of kill you.
What is Palatine's awakening wish?
To survive, it was.
Ah, I see. So could you theoretically, if you could convince him that you can survive in history, would that grant his wish?
No, it's
by,
more
like, putting him in a
animalistic
history
than
book?
that. It's not the sort of thing you could have a conversation with.
I see. Ainsworth also asks, speaking of the head of the Absurd Weapons Lab, are they one person or a group?
There's a council of, like, scientists who, like, manage it, but there's a head of the council, so there's, like, one guy, ultimately.
Who's the current head?
He's a guy. I can't go too much into him because he's probably going to appear later.
Mester.
No. He's a guy who's done experiments on himself, so he wouldn't look like a human being when you saw him.
Ooh, okay. Will Jester ever come up?
No. He's an RP character, and I don't want this to end to, like, read the tie-in novel and you understand.
No, that's actually a really good thing to do. I love Jester, though. He's fun. Alright, well, thank you guys for watching, as always, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.